Many people believe that the U.S. economy was thriving during Donald Trump's first term as president. They remember a time of low unemployment, rising stock markets, and economic growth. In contrast, when the economy struggles today, some look back nostalgically and say, things were better under Trump. But the truth is more complicated. While some economic indicators looked strong on the surface, the reality was very different. The economy under Trump was built on unstable foundations, massive tax cuts for the rich, unsustainable debt, and policies that favored corporations over workers. In many ways, the economic boom was an illusion, benefiting only a small fraction of Americans while leaving the majority vulnerable to disaster. To truly understand Trump's economic legacy, we must look beyond surface-level statistics. This article will break down why many people think the economy was better under Trump, why that perception is misleading, and what really happened during his presidency. At first glance, Trump's economic record seemed impressive. His supporters point to three key facts: low unemployment, stock market growth, tax cuts. But each of these points hides deeper truths that tell a different story. Trump often claimed credit for low unemployment, but this trend started long before he took office. The U.S. unemployment rate peaked at 10% in October 2009 during the Great Recession. After that, it steadily declined under President Obama. By the time Trump took office in January 2017, unemployment was already at 4.7%. It continued to fall during his presidency, but at about the same rate as it had under Obama. In other words, Trump didn't create low unemployment, he inherited it. The economy was already recovering, and his administration simply continued the trend. What Trump did do, however, was exaggerate his impact on job growth. He often framed job creation during his presidency as historic, yet when compared to Obama's second term, the difference was minimal. Even before COVID-19, job growth under Trump was slightly slower than during Obama's last years. Another important factor to consider is the nature of the jobs being created. While employment numbers looked strong, wages did not see significant growth. Many of the jobs added were in low-wage sectors like retail and hospitality, which meant that even though people were working, they were struggling to keep up with the rising cost of living. Trump frequently bragged about stock market records, suggesting that rising stock prices meant a strong economy. But stock market performance does not reflect the financial well-being of most Americans. Over 80% of all U.S. stocks are owned by the wealthiest 10% of Americans. That means most people saw little to no benefit from stock market growth. The stock market does not represent wages, job security, or the cost of living. It reflects corporate profits and investor confidence. Even when the stock market booms, it does not necessarily mean the economy is healthy for working people. The reality is that the stock market's rise mainly benefited the wealthy and corporate executives, not the average American. Many middle-class Americans own little or no stock, so they didn't see real gains from the market's success. Additionally, much of the stock market's growth was driven by corporate stock buybacks, which were supercharged by Trump's tax cuts. These buybacks enriched shareholders and executives, but did little to create new jobs or raise wages for workers. One of Trump's biggest economic policies was the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, TCJA, of 2017. He claimed it would benefit working-class Americans, but the truth is that it overwhelmingly favored corporations and the rich. 83% of the benefits of the tax cuts went to the top 1% of earners. While some middle-class Americans saw small tax cuts, they were temporary. Meanwhile, corporate tax cuts were permanent. Trump's tax cuts exploded the federal deficit, adding nearly $2 trillion to the national debt. So while people might have seen slightly lower taxes in the short term, the long-term effects, higher national debt and cuts to public services, hurt the average American more. Additionally, while corporations received massive tax breaks, there was no corresponding surge in business investment or wage increases. Many large companies used their tax savings to repurchase their own stock rather than invest in their workers or expand operations. While some numbers look good on the surface, there were deeper economic problems brewing under Trump's presidency. Even though the economy was growing, wages remained mostly stagnant. Adjusted for inflation, real wage growth for most workers was minimal. The cost of living, especially housing, healthcare, and education, continued to rise faster than wages. Corporate profits soared, but the benefits did not trickle down to workers. In short, while businesses and the wealthy saw record profits, the average American was still struggling to afford basic necessities. One of the biggest economic myths about Trump is that he was good for fiscal responsibility. In reality, he added more to the national debt than any president before him. The U.S. debt increased by $7.8 trillion during Trump's 4 years in office. A large portion of this came from his tax cuts, which drastically reduced government revenue. Despite his campaign promises to eliminate the national debt, he left office with it at record highs. This means that any economic gains under Trump were borrowed from the future, leaving future generations to deal with the consequences. Trump often claimed to be a job creator, but job growth under his presidency was actually slower than it was under Obama. From 2017 to early 2020, before COVID-19, job growth averaged about 180,000 jobs per month. Under Obama, 2010 to 2016, job growth averaged about 201,000 jobs per month. This means that even in the best of times, the economy under Trump wasn't growing jobs as fast as it did before he took office. One of Trump's signature policies was his trade war with China. He imposed tariffs, taxes on imported goods, claiming it would protect American jobs. But in reality, it caused more harm than good. U.S. farmers suffered major losses as China responded with tariffs on American agricultural products. The government had to provide billions in subsidies to keep farmers afloat. Many American manufacturers faced higher costs because of tariffs on imported materials like steel and aluminum. Instead of bringing back jobs, many companies moved production overseas to avoid the trade war's impact. The trade war did not strengthen the economy. It hurt American workers and businesses while failing to achieve its goal. The biggest economic event of Trump's presidency was the COVID-19 pandemic. Some argue that the economy was strong before COVID and the pandemic was just bad luck. But in reality, Trump's handling of the crisis made the economic damage worse. The U.S. had one of the worst economic contractions among wealthy nations. GDP fell by 9.1% in the second quarter of 2020. Unemployment skyrocketed to 14.8%, the highest since the Great Depression. Trump downplayed the severity of the virus, refused to take early action, and mismanaged relief efforts, leading to a longer economic crisis. While COVID-19 affected all countries, Trump's slow response and failure to implement effective policies made the economic impact far worse than it needed to be. The economy under Trump was not as strong as many believe. While some numbers look good on the surface, they mask deeper problems: stagnant wages, rising debt, slower job growth, and policies that disproportionately benefited the wealthy. The COVID-19 pandemic exposed these weaknesses, revealing how fragile the economy actually was. While Trump supporters remember his presidency as a time of economic success, the truth is that it was built on short-term gains, long-term debt, and an illusion of prosperity that primarily benefited the rich. When we examine the facts, it becomes clear. The economy under Trump wasn't as great as people think. It just looked that way for a while. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on more in-depth analyses like this one. Your support helps us continue to bring you content that challenges perspectives and dives deep into the issues that matter most. Share with friends and family who would benefit from these discussions, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thanks for watching.